Good morning, New Brunswick, and welcome to the New Brunswick Today show for today, Tuesday, January 3rd. I'm your host, Charlie Cradaville. We've got a great show for you. Our special guest today is John Asprey, an old friend who's helped organize and empower the Rutgers student community here in New Brunswick. He's moved on to bigger and better things, but he's back in New Brunswick today, and he's going to explain a little bit about how to build power and use it for good on the show today. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. Currently experiencing some light rain here in New Brunswick. It's 41 degrees right now in downtown. According to weather.com, we're in for a cloudy day with periods of rain. It'll total about half an inch. The high is going to be about 45 degrees, and the low tonight is expected to be 41. It is back to work here in the government district of New Brunswick. Also back to school for the kids in the New Brunswick public school system. We all hope you had a very happy holiday season, and we're excited to continue serving as your best source of local news here in New Brunswick in 2017. Now please start off the year by doing us a favor and share this video right now so your friends can see this interview. I'm actually going to do it right now so that my friends can see it. You go to the New Brunswick Today page and just do us a favor, share this live streaming video so that your friends can check that out. Do that here. Thank you for doing this. And so we've got a lot to talk about today. By now, I'm sure you've heard that we had, probably heard that we had a search warrant served on us by police in our office on December 20th. That is the result of our December 16th episode of this program, the New Brunswick Today show. You might remember our special guest on that show was a suspicious water meter, one that read all zeros despite appearing to have been used. Apparently the water utility director here, Mark Lavenberg, watched that episode and decided to get the police involved. This is the video you're watching right now of two New Brunswick Police Department detectives taking that special water meter from our office. Now, we've been raising concerns about this police action, and so have the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists. We believe that the police ran afoul of federal law and state law when they took this action, and we will be pursuing that. We'll keep you updated on that. We do have some exciting updates to give you about the water utility on our next program on Friday, but for now, enjoy the rest of this video. We'll be back in just a moment. This is me chasing the police out of our office with the water meter.
That has the original broadcast you had on there.
Gentlemen, it's on YouTube. That is, that's all.
Well, first you said it was recorded to Facebook Live. There was no recorded medium.
It was broadcast live, so streamed live. There's no...
To Facebook?
Correct.
Okay, so...
Our Facebook... The broadcast was live.
The broadcast was live to Facebook?
Correct.
Okay, and it wasn't recorded and then uploaded later?
Correct. It was a live broadcast.
Okay.
And
I just want to be... I don't want to split hairs here because I want to make sure that we fully understand each other, because when stuff's uploaded to YouTube, it's usually recorded and then uploaded. Your representation is the fact that you recorded, it was uploaded live, that there was no actual recording of that.
I see. You're asking about the YouTube video.
Yes.
Right. So the YouTube video is a copy of the Facebook video. It's the same video.
That's not what I asked. When you recorded the video, it was recorded onto some kind of storage medium and then uploaded to Facebook?
No, it was not. No,
Sure.
it was not. Yes, I'm certain.
I want to be absolutely clear, because there's overlays and stuff on there that's not natively...
Yeah, no, it was a total live broadcast, 100% live broadcast. Mm-hmm. The video that is on YouTube was taken from Facebook. It was not, there's no other...
And the original video for that is where?
The original video
for... was the recorded one from Facebook then, prior to being edited and placed on YouTube.
There was no editing done. It was
prior to any overlays where it says New Brunswick Today or anything else like that.
That was on the original broadcast. You can go to our Facebook page, New Brunswick, Facebook.com/New Brunswick Today. You can watch the.
So the original
it's identical. Yeah, we do a pretty professional show here.
I just want to make sure that.
Did you guys watch it?
We're speaking the exact same language and understand the facts, so there's no problems down the road.
Of course, yeah, no.
So there's no original store recording of the video.
Correct. The video was a live broadcast.
Okay, so
broadcast through Facebook
so you don't
Live.
have any stored media?
Correct. There's no...
Okay. Very good.
Last thing, I am going to want to at some point talk to you about how you came into be in possession of this unit. Are you
Yeah.
willing to cooperate
you
with
know-
an investigation of a stolen?
You're in possession of stolen property right now.
Well, I can be honest with you that I was willing to meet with you Thursday morning at 10 a.m. And, you know, I was taken by surprise when Captain Miller called me 10 minutes ago, and I see you walking in to get your warrant there. I thought we were already on for a meeting. I thought we had already picked a time and a date to meet, and I was told the way we left it was it would be best for me to bring the meter to the meeting. So that was what I was planning to do.
So
and
Thursday
now
at 10 a.m. you're still available to come down and meet with Detective Lemon, is what you're saying.
I'm saying I'll have to think about it now that you've gone out of your way to get a search warrant and
To recover stolen property. Okay. Well,
I'm
I'm,
not
sure
trying-
you'll be in touch one way or the other. How about that?
Sure,
Well,
I'll call you
we'll do this.
tomorrow. Here.
We'll leave it on the books for 10 a.m. Thursday morning. If something changes, you have his number. You can call him. Sound good?
Sure, and just one
you.
more thing. I want to ask, is anybody going to look into the allegations that are in the video?
Well, obviously, right now you're asking me as a concerned citizen or a reporter.
I like to think I'm both. I mean,
Well, you got to do both ways. You've been videotaping the whole time. I think I'm talking to a reporter right now. You know what my response is going to be. Contact the PIO. All right, Charlie.
fair enough.
Thanks a lot.
I encourage you to check that meter out. There's got to be a reason that it's all zeros. It's a zero read. It looks like it's been used. I think there might be some funny business at the water department.
And welcome back to the New Brunswick Today show. Next to me here is actually the latest item that we have in the water situation. This is a bottle of water given to us, came out of a faucet here. I want you to take a close look at this. You can see at the bottom, this is rust that got into it from a water main break. And so you just shake this up. You got the, this is the famous yellow water that was given to us by a resident of Rutgers Village after they had that water main break on last Thursday. We actually brought this bottle of water to the city council since the city was telling people it was safe to drink the water. We gave them a chance to take a sip from this, and we'll have that video for you on Friday's episode of the New Brunswick Today show. So check that out. We are proud to be the only independent bilingual community newspaper right here in the Hub City. Make sure you check out our latest issue. Still available all over Middlesex County in the big blue boxes you'll see around town. But of course, the best way to get New Brunswick Today is to have it sent directly to your home or business by becoming a sustaining member. You can do that online at members.newbrunswicktoday.com. You can subscribe for just $5 a month. Get the only independent bilingual community newspaper mailed to you anywhere in the United States. Just visit members.newbrunswicktoday.com and help support this very good cause of community journalism. Now, our top story today is the ongoing murder case playing out right behind me in the Middlesex County Courthouse. That's happening right now in the courtroom of Judge Dennis Nieves. That's where a jury has been hearing testimony from several witnesses about the very sad case of Billy McCaw, a college student who was brutally murdered in February 2014. Now, you're taking a look at some photographs here of the courtroom. You might recognize one of the witnesses is Detective Brandon Epstein, who you might remember from that first video. He was the guy who took the water meter from our office on December 20th. He is the NBPD's resident expert on video forensic analysis. You heard me going back and forth with him about our video of the December 16th episode of this show. And so he's been showing the jury some videos of that neighborhood on the night that Billy McCaw was killed. Those videos are videos that prosecutors think show Timothy Puskis, the defendant in the case, following McCaw down Hartwell Street at about 2:45 in the morning on the night that McCaw died. Now, Detective Epstein is back on the witness stand today, should be testifying right about now. This contentious case has already dragged on for nearly a month longer than originally expected. So we will have an article out on this case very soon. Please stay tuned to the NewBrunswickToday.com website for this story. There's a lot more to it, including the fact that the defendant, Tim Puskis, and that witness, Detective Brandon Epstein, actually knew each other socially. So we've got that and a lot more great stories coming to our website soon. Right now, you can actually check out a great report from our business reporter, David Schatz. He's got several articles posted, and one of those is he's been covering a growing trend of part-time work and how it's becoming the so-called new normal, according to a recent study. Also, our intrepid reporter, Chris Roberts, and I have the story for you on Quad 2. That's the Rutgers dorm that's been plagued with hot water and heating problems, and there's a lot more great stories on that website, so please check out newbrunswicktoday.com and catch up on what's going on in our community. Now, it is that special time of year where governments go through what is called a reorganization. That's where they sometimes pick new leaders. So, for instance, tomorrow, the New Brunswick City Council is expected to swear in Suzanne Sikora Ludwig, the newest member, and they're also expected to select a new City Council president. We are expecting that person is going to be Glenn Fleming. He's a resident of Rutgers Village. He's served on the City Council since 2012. And he is currently the vice president. So we're anticipating he will probably be selected by his colleagues to be elevated to president, which means no more President Kevin Egan. That meeting is going to be open to the public. It starts at 6:30 p.m., and that's again tomorrow in City Hall, which is located just one block away from here at 78 Bayard Street. Now, likewise, the county government, also known as the Middlesex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, are going to hold their reorganization meeting where they perhaps might choose a new freeholder director and deputy director. And that meeting is right around the same time. Their meeting starts at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and it will be at the Middlesex County College Performing Arts Center in Edison. Now, we'll be sure to let you know on our next episode how those meetings turn out and who is going to be leading those bodies in 2017. But now it's time for our special guest. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Mr. John Asprey is a legend in New Brunswick. He co-founded several organizations here, including New Jersey United Students. He also helped to launch the Rutgers United political party that led the student government of Rutgers for many years, and he even served as an elected Democratic committeeman in the 6th Ward of the Hub City. He's now a full-time union organizer in upstate New York, and he's going to tell us, we're going to take a stroll down memory lane, and we're going to talk about how maybe some of the lessons he learned can help you get involved in your community. Now, let's take that stroll down memory lane while we bring John into the studio. Here's a video from 2009. It's John speaking truth to power at a New Brunswick City Council meeting. This is November 2009, and it's a very interesting video. You'll see a young John Asprey not afraid to speak up at that meeting. Enjoy the video. We'll be right back with our special guest after this.
I was concerned about the election yesterday, and I have some issues and concerns. Could have did a better job. And what I feel is we left out our cousins, the Hispanic population, and everything was in English. And I noticed the other people had a little thing, I brought it with me, and a little round thing, but it's in both English and Spanish. And it's easier to pass out the kid, and that's a concern. So next time we have to do something, I think we need to think it through because, you know, this is a community. We have everybody, but some of our Spanish population does not read English, but they can read Spanish. That's a concern. The other, okay, where am I at? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What happened?
I didn't see
they're not citizens. What do you mean not citizens? What? I'm sorry.
They don't speak English, they cannot become citizens.
That's
But I thought that's what.
That's over the law.
What's that? I'm sorry. What? Wait, I may be confused. Now, in other words, you're saying they're not citizens.
Does that for voting purposes that you're talking about?
Right.
The English or the Spanish?
Yes.
If you're not a citizen, if you don't speak English generally, you cannot become a citizen. Those are the laws of the land.
No. Okay, well, that's another issue. I'll bring that up at another time and place because I got a concern with that. Because even in my building, I have a Spanish, and we're pretty tight, we're close, and you know, we can't communicate, but then we shake hands and hug and stuff and appreciation, but I learned something fine. I'm sorry, okay. Moving right along.
I find it actually strongly offensive that you think that the citizenship rules of the nation of the United States of America require you to speak English. There's in fact no official language. The voting instructions at all the booths that I were at were in English, Spanish, and what appeared to be Korean. And that's in fact the law as mandated, because there are numerous citizens that do not speak English and are still entitled to voting rights. So I just think that actually took me aback, that you don't think that people who do not speak English can be citizens.
What I wanted to let George know was that the fact when you become a citizen, you're tested in English. The county does all the voting stuff in English and Spanish. That, I know that's true, but he's saying that we should have done this in English and Spanish, so, you know, there's a lot of people who speak Spanish who feel more comfortable in Spanish, but do know English and have been tested in English to become citizens. That's a fact.
I'm pretty sure there are numerous citizens who are born in this country that were never tested to become citizens that still speak Spanish as their primary language.
If they go to school, they'll learn English.
They have a program called English as a Second Language that teaches people English, but in fact they start out and take most of their classes in Spanish. These are things you guys should probably know as representatives in the city.
I'm the one that started the bilingual program in Brunswick way back when.
Okay.
Education didn't.
No, I'm aware you work with the Puerto Rican Action Board. That's why I was actually so taken aback by the statements. But thank you for addressing my concerns.
Is there any other member of the public who wishes to address the City Council at this time?
And welcome back. That man there at that council meeting was John Asprey. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Yeah,
it's a real
good to see you,
pleasure.
Charlie.
Welcome back, brother.
Thank you.
So, we've known each other how long now? It's been almost like 8 years?
Yeah, at least since 2008.
Okay, yeah. So we were rabble-rousing, getting questions on the ballot, running people for elected office, doing all those kind of things. But you were also, at the same time, building a real movement among the students that live here in New Brunswick and getting them involved, both at Rutgers but also in the community. Tell us a little about that and why you thought that was an important use of your time when you were here.
Yeah, well, honestly, I was motivated by a combination of two things. I mean, there was an organization called Kent State University that recruited me, and two of the things that made me want to get involved the most were, one, hearing about, how important it was to stop the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also about the stories of local corruption that some of the people who had been around in New Brunswick for decades were sharing with the student movement. And so, I wanted to get involved in building a movement of students because students are such a large chunk of the city. They deserve a seat at the table, and they should be working to not to build power for themselves, but also to make New Brunswick a better place,
Yeah, and I think some of our work helped kind of tear down this wall that exists, this kind of bubble between the student community and the rest of New Brunswick. And, I don't know, it seems like you achieved a lot of success. You got a political party, you had people, you were very nearly elected the president of the student body. You also ran for this thing called Democrat Committee. Tell us about that office and, why folks might want to try running for that.
Yeah, so New Brunswick Democratic Committee are precinct level positions, or districts in New Brunswick. So they're super, super small. You can win an election with like 20 to 30 votes. And it's
like just your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just your neighborhood. It's like a couple blocks. And it's probably the smallest office that exists in the U.S. And it's also really fascinating to me because it's been fused with the government. The Democratic and Republican committee seats, these organizations actually get to select who works the polls. So they actually have the power to, in the worst of cases, deny people the right to vote, and in the best of cases, be ardent protectors of people's right to vote in city elections. And so I was a Democratic committee man as a way of, being at least able to monitor what goes on in these organizations.
Right on. And so this year is actually a year when if folks are interested in running, you can file a petition by April and be on the ballot in June. You would, run to represent the Democrats in your neighborhood. And so you did that for I guess one term.
Yep.
Which ward and district were you?
Ward 6, District 2. The area is bounded by Eastman Avenue on the east, Hamilton on the south, Central on the north, and all the way to the edge of town.
Right. So like 5 or 6 streets, and you went around. You got people to vote for you, and you achieved this victory.
Yeah.
Very cool. So maybe that's something folks can do. But tell us if you're just like a college student, watching this broadcast, and you're, maybe concerned about the future of our planet or our country. What would be some ways for a student to get involved through the university or otherwise?
Yeah, so I would actually say the individualist approach of just like running for office is not the thing to do. I actually believe that strong organizations with a mission and platform are the #1 way to make change. So find an organization. I mean, this is something that I feel has been lost to politics recently, but being involved in a political movement means you give up a little bit of being able to do exactly the thing you want to do right now. I think that's something we both saw in like our time, rousing rabble. There's a lot of times where it's like, well, the thing I think is the best strategy is not actually what our organization can do. So if you're a Rutgers student, if you're just a person in the New Brunswick community, like building an organization that has a mission. And I think that, Rutgers as a campus actually has a lot of organizations. Like, I mean, I have no doubt United Students Against Sweatshops is still around and kicking. There's also a vibrant network of unions here at Rutgers who would love to work with the student movement to advocate for labor rights. Even New Labor Downtown as a worker center is like a place where you can help build power for students and workers. So find an organization whose mission speaks to you, or if you know some people who are like-minded, build one yourself and just start talking to people to win people over to your vision of what the world should be.
Right on. Very good advice. And yeah, I think it's very true. You got to stand for. They say if you don't stand for something,
you'll fall for
anything. So definitely it's important to have a mission or a platform or goal, and you were very effective at doing that. Tell us about what were the issues back then. I mean, I know tuition always has been a big issue, but what were some of the things that you fought for, and the things that you thought were most important?
Yeah, so I mean, I started doing anti-war organizing because that is a thing that spoke to me very viscerally.
The Iraq War.
Yeah, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the fact that the United States government is basically leading the charge to suppress people's movements in other countries and to build an empire. And I think that kind of imperialist foreign policy is deeply unjust. But also, when I was a freshman and sophomore, I knew a lot of people at Rutgers who couldn't afford to stay in school and like had to drop out. And that thing, it was what made me, it was like, oh wait, these things actually are together. You can have a movement that does both. You can mobilize against U.S. imperialism. You can also fight for education funding. And that kind of like multi-issue organization, one that could adopt stances on multiple things and actually mobilize around important issues, was something that spoke deeply to me. So when, there's a lot of organizing that happened. At one point, we were in a position to build a coalition to run a large slate of candidates for student government. And I was able to bring multicultural organizations, environmentalist organizations, pro-labor organizations, and also just people who had been involved in stuff, but like who were like, oh, this seems like a progressive platform, I would like to be a part of this, together to run a slate for student government and actually win a majority of seats. So I think there's lots of opportunities for multi-issue coalition building and creating a united platform to build an even broader movement.
Right, and tell us about that organization, 10th State. I was a part of it kind of towards the end, but 10th State was around for more than 10 years, an annual event, but really more than just an event, kind of a movement. Tell us about how that came together and what function that served in the movement.
Yeah, so 10th State initially was like a one-time event of a group called the Community Empowerment Project, which is just like a Rutgers student organization. And it was a 48-hour occupation of Voorhees Mall.
It was occupied before it was cool.
Yeah, basically. We had town hall tent every night where people would discuss the operation of the event. It's almost like an occupied General Assembly. And this started in 2003. Now, I got to Rutgers in fall of 2007. So my first 10th State was spring 2008. And by then it was a week-long event, live shows every night, people camped out. But we also ran the event democratically. Like, we had a town hall meeting where anyone, not just the organizers, could come and discuss, how the event could be made better. And that actually gave us an opportunity to recruit people, because people would come to the town hall meeting because it was happening, and then we were like, okay, we need to do outreach for this, for the shows tomorrow, or for this workshop that's happening. It was a platform where different student organizations could come and run workshops and have panels. People came for the concerts, so it was like it fused the cultural and the political and created a community in the middle of the college campus in a physical space for a week, while being an exercise of power. It was actually so powerful that we would run our own security, and Rutgers police would liaison with us officially, despite the fact that for most of its running, we had no permit to be there. We had no official permission. We weren't even a registered student organization. It was just a thing that happened that the administration had to acknowledge and liaison with, because doing anything else would be harder for them.
Right, and throughout the whole time, there would be a place where folks could call their legislators and say, hey, stop funding these wars and start funding, higher education.
Exactly.
And you generated, hundreds, thousands of calls doing that kind of work. So it's a very cool event. Would hope to see something like it return one day to the campus here. But tell us a little bit about, what you're doing now. We're in kind of a interesting political climate right now. You're doing union organizing. How do you see the future of the labor movement under our future president?
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of historical analogies that have been made specifically about like the rise of fascism, and I think only history will bear out whether or not Trump is like actually a fascist or that kind of thing. One thing I do know is that whenever any conservative to reactionary to fascist politician comes to power, the unions and the labor movement have been the number one defenders of the working class. And I think that unions, and not just unions in the sense of like recognized unions with a contract, but workers' organizations are going to be crucial in fighting back against the worst of the Trump administration. But what that means is that there's a lot more discipline within the labor movement that needs to be done. I think people need to be more dedicated to organizing than they ever have been. That a conservative stance, like some of the international unions have taken, of saying, no, we're going to organize less, we're going to put less into the organizing budget, we're going to take a defensive posture, is the wrong move. In order to push back against the worst the Trump administration has to offer, I think that unions need to put more and more of their money into organizing new workers, more than they ever spent on an election.
Right. And I want to talk a little bit about campus organizing, and one of the cool things that you folks did in that movement is you got the unions representing the faculty and the staff at Rutgers to find issues where they had shared interests or aligned interests with the student movement, and actually got the students and the staff to work together. How do you see that playing out at campuses across the country, and what's some maybe strategies to strengthen those ties?
Yeah, so at Rutgers, it was an honor to be a part of something that the Rutgers AUP-AFT put together, which is the Rutgers One Coalition. It was students, faculty, and staff coalition. It's a student labor coalition, and the idea was that students, workers at the university, both TAs, RAs, grad students, professors, both adjunct, full-time, and tenure, and administrative staff have more in common with each other than they do with the administrators who run the university and the members of the Board of Governors and Board of Trustees. And I think that that's true at every university. Like, I don't think that there's a university where students have more in common with administrators. Like, I remember even in student government, the biggest issue we ever had with the faculty was that people wished that syllabi would be posted online like earlier than like a couple weeks before the class. And that is nothing compared to the rising cost of attending college, the fact that neither students nor faculty actually have any say in the governance of the university. And so we came together as a coalition to fight. At the time, there was a manufactured budget crisis, but a budget crisis in the New Jersey state budget, that essentially the state legislature was denying any increases to funding for Rutgers, and so Rutgers President McCormick decided to institute a unilateral pay freeze, or salary, for the faculty and staff. Meanwhile, jacking up Rutgers students' tuition, and we were able to fight against that.
And expanding the football stadium
Yes.
and borrowing extensively to do it for our program here, which hasn't exactly reaped rewards.
By the way, this is actually one of my favorite things. We did a teach-in on the Rutgers budget. We found the bond report for, I forget if it was S&P or Moody's, but the report Rutgers gives to its creditors, and the title was Rutgers University, Flagship Institution, Unlimited Student Fees. Rutgers tells the people that it borrows from that they can increase tuition as much as they'd like, and they will always be able to pay back
Guaranteed,
whatever loans.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They can always take out more loans, issue more bonds, and they'll always be able to pay it back off of the students. So whatever new building they want to build, they can do it.
They just got to jack up the price for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean those credit ratings reports are always enlightening. They kind of, put the truth out there. So it's very interesting. You guys uncovered that, and yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I know you worked on different campuses now. How do you see the sort of the athletics arms race that has been Rutgers has poured so much money, some would say good money after bad, to invest in its athletics program at the same time that there's, like you mentioned, faculty not getting raises and infrastructure crumbling. You can read our story about Quad 2. The kids don't have heat or hot water some days. How do you see that playing out on other campuses? Are there other campuses where they're making smarter choices and not investing so much in athletics, or how do you see that playing out across the country?
I mean, there are definitely some universities that have been more successful by not investing in athletics. I would say that overall, that pouring all of this money into athletics budget is generally to the detriment of higher education. All of the money spent on facilities and branding could actually be devoted to providing real resources to students and also to the people who work at the university. So in general, the athletics arms race is something that, especially when your football team doesn't always do the best, is the most detrimental. At some universities where they've been able to really capitalize on their football program and make it, it's been better for the university, but I think that overall it takes away from the purpose of higher education. We should be providing affordable education to every student in the country, but instead we need a stadium. And I think that's a sad state of affairs. It is, and I guess the last thing I want to ask you about is this trend of increasing tuition. It's not just at Rutgers; it's at colleges all across the country. It's basically, twice as much as it was, 10 or 20 years ago, and it's still increasing at a rate greater than inflation. So it makes it hard for people to keep up, and obviously hard to get by without that college degree these days. What do you see as the solution? How can this student debt bubble be resolved without causing chaos? What do you see as the right path forward? Yeah, I mean, one thing that's clear to me is that at least at Rutgers there was always a back and forth where the Rutgers administration and the New Jersey State Legislature would pass the buck to each other. New Jersey State Legislature would say,
each other
exactly,
for
there's no more fun, there's not enough money, this costs too much, and then Rutgers would say, well, the New Jersey Legislature state didn't give us enough money, so we're going to have to increase tuition. I think a free college proposal that would actually take direct control of the universities and say, yeah, no, these are run by the government, not just, I mean, they already should be. They're public universities. They should be actually run as an arm of the state, and in some states they are. Right. But here we have this sort of wonky we're going to have a board of trustees for this college that are sometimes appointed by the state, but with the blessing of the local state senator, and in some places, and the board of governors structure, which is a public-private partnership from the 50s, it allows people to pass the buck to each other and play the students and the faculty and the staff off of each other by essentially muddying the waters. Yeah, it diffuses the responsibility, accountability. So that there's none. No one can ever be truly held accountable. I think that the government should actually invest in higher education and just make education free for any student who I don't know. I would say actually just everyone. Everyone should
college,
be able.
yeah.
Yeah, everyone should be able to go to college. At least take a few classes, if not get a degree. But like everyone should be able to go to college.
I agree. Well, last question. Who do you miss more, New Brunswick City Council or Rutgers Board of Governors?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Honestly, less the Board of Governors, but more the administrators at Rutgers. The student life as an entity that tried to teach Rutgers students what it meant to be a student and like really make it so that the students were a reflection of what the administration wanted. I always had a deep-seated resentment of that, and so I miss how they would try to explain to students what it meant to be a student, as opposed to, and say like, oh no, you don't want that. You want this other thing that we want, like
talking down to you.
Yeah, especially even from the beginning where they tell you like, oh, you shouldn't go to these other parts of New Brunswick. Like from the beginning they enforced the town-down divide. So I think that the upper level administrators, more than the shadowy Board of Governors, are the people I learned to miss the most.
Well, I'm sure they miss you too, and we miss you very much, John. It's so good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, and please keep up the great work. We love you, man, and it's great to see you as always. Keep it up.
Miss you too.
Thanks,
Trevor.
everybody. John Asprey, check him out. Social media, he's the man. And tune in Friday. We'll have another great show, and we'll show you that video of. You want something to drink?
I don't know. Maybe I'll pass.
All right, we'll see. We'll show you what the city council said when I offered them that on Friday's show. Tune in again, New Brunswick Today Show, newbrunswicktoday.com. Become a member. Keep supporting community news. Have a happy new year, and thanks for joining us.